All right, how's it doing, everybody? I know it's been a brief break, but I came back with somebody I know you guys are super excited about. Alvaro García Martínez. I mean, this guy has a long resume. I mean, he's worked for ILM. He's worked on Marvel projects. He's like at the frontier of doing Unreal animation. I know everybody's interested in that real-time animation. I know a lot of you guys are still on Maya, Blender, whatever, and the render times are killing you guys. I know you guys want to know how to work with Houdini and all that good stuff. So he's working. I mean, I watch his live streams and he jumps from program to program as if it's like one big collage. Man, this guy is super awesome. I'd like to welcome to the show. Man, I'm super excited. So I like to start with the beginning. So you're coming out of high school. What are you? I mean, do you know what you want to do, or is it something you kind of fell into? Oh, oh, oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, hold on one second. I feel like your audio is not coming in clear. Let me reach out to somebody and make sure. So let's just pause for 1 second. We're gonna pause the stream. We're gonna recap that, but I just want to make sure because I'm noticing the levels are not peaking as they were before. So I super apologize. Just give me 1 second. Okay, well, I'll definitely. What? Okay. All right. Oh, man, I was like, what is going? I did this 12 times and just for the.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, test. Better. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hello, hello. Better now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
And we're back live. All right, guys. Apologize about that. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I had yeah, my what do you call that? My Adobe updated, so I'm blaming Adobe and everything. Yeah, everything's acting really weird, and it updated without me authorizing it. So you should be good. Okay, all right. Apologize about that. All right, let's get back into it. Let's if you don't mind, and the audience, I know they want to hear a recap. You just streamline, and I'll pick apart it. So you coming out of high school, and
And I wasn't very good at high school. I
okay,
started to be good when I left high school.
all
I
right.
found this is like Adobe. If you say you want to learn something, I don't like me to. I don't want you to push me what I have to learn. So
Okay.
I finished high school and I decided just to do something quite random. Well, random in that moment. At that moment, I was spending a lot of time. That was martial arts and sports. So I did a kind of professional formation there. And after 2 years of working as personal trainer, I was thinking, I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And then my mind came back some things about when I was editing maps or creating maps or modifying characters for very old video games like Quake 1, Quake 2, Quake 3 Arena,
Wow.
Unreal Tournament, all these games. I remember my cousin always told me, you are breaking the games doing these things. No, I'm not breaking. And yeah, I like to, for example, I think FIFA FIFA 2000, I just took the ball and I make a massive ball,
Wow.
like a 2 meters, modifying games. I
Huge.
had a kind of
Wow.
something playing around, like doing mods when in the moment that no one cared about mods.
Quick,
Now every single video game has mods.
quick
Yeah,
question. How did you know the knowledge of going in and modding it out? Like, how did you know to mod?
I don't know, man, how I started to because some of the video games they came with their own editor sometimes,
Uh huh.
and then you start digging. And I was into some forums.
Mm-hmm.
I remember learning also Ruby scripting that was in RPG Maker, a
Ooh.
very old 2D,
Right.
2D sprites role game maker. And one thing came to the other, and every single time I got a video game, the first thing I look, it was like, okay, is there an editor or not? Because I don't
Wow.
want to play. I want just to break it. I want to
Wow.
check what is inside. I download Milkshake. Milkshake is a very old software to do 3D and was free back in the days. I don't know if Milkshake is still available right now. And editing games like one, things like that.
Okay.
So anyway, I did this kind of personal trainer thing, and all these memories came back, and it's like, okay, maybe I should give it a try. When I
Right.
was maybe 20, 21,
Mm.
I did a master degree of non-linear animation
Wow.
in Madrid, in TICE. And that was more or less my starting point, like learning for an amazing teacher, Jose. That was this kind of teacher that always leaves clues of
Mm.
doing things, but it's not gonna explain you everything. It's gonna give you the teaser of, oh, if you do this with this kind of simulator, you can do this. And it's like, oh, can you tell me more? Nah, I check on the internet.
Mm.
And was like, whoa, this is interesting. And then I was learning, honestly, more at home, not
Mm-hmm.
because the teacher was bad, it's because the teacher was good.
Mm.
I think a good teacher push you to learn by
Right.
wrong.
Yeah.
No, doesn't
Definitely.
just give you the enough information to grab your attention, and then you want to learn more. And that's a good teacher, in my opinion. So yeah, that's how I started by changing my career 180 degrees, saying bye to personal trainers and all this stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
completely.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
it's more of I guess, a hunger to learn. You know what I mean? The hunger was there to really
yeah,
kind of self-teach yourself. So, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like in this day and age, like the technology keeps coming out so fast. Going to school for it is like almost impossible because there's updates, especially with Unreal. And we're gonna get into that, but like there's updates coming out almost weekly between Unreal and Blender. It's like, oh well, this is the way you used to do it. Well, how about try this new way? Does that work with your workflow and stuff like that? So, I feel
I
like,
completely, yeah, I completely teachers now, friends of mine, that they are more stressed out than the students
mm-hmm,
because they need to recycle quite a lot.
Yeah.
10 years ago, the change was from, let's say, a scanline renderer to V-Ray to
Right.
mental ray, or it's like every change was more or less every second year, third year, and
Right.
was not like a leap, was more like an incremental, predictable evolution. That's the difference. In one
Yeah.
interview I got, is the difference between evolution and revolution. Evolution is somehow predictable, looking to the past of how technology evolved from FK to IK to direct lighting to global illumination. Changes that doesn't make you to think different. Is just an extra additive element into the way you work, but doesn't change the mindset. This is a revolution. It's a change of mindset, and it's not like something you are gonna see a couple of videos and everything is done, because you change an entire pipeline, an entire way of thinking, and that's the interesting part of all this.
Yeah, you're. I love the analogy to evolution, revolution, because that makes super sense. And you're right. We were on the evolution pathway for a while, and now we're seeing revolution, and now we're on a new evolution. So it's kind of crazy how things change every 3 or 4 seconds. So
Yeah.
Tell me how you get your first job, and what was that experience, and your first VFX or studio job?
I think, it was quite incremental, because as many of us, we started as freelancers.
Right.
So to say what was the first is blurred, because you start with a friend of a friend that needs a logo and
Right.
things like that.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
start with, I need a 3D model. So I can say that because let's assume that my career started in London when I came to London. So my first job was in medical animation, in medical visualization. And was quite interesting to me, because even if it looks not related with filmmaking, it's a lot related with biomechanics and the idea of physics in general. You learn a lot about that. And also
Right.
because I got a more physical background, it was the perfect match of 3D animation, physiology, anatomy, and I got an amazing boss that helped me out to use my time to learn new things.
Right.
It was a small company, a fusion animation in London, and the thing, he was like, at some point when he saw that I was always trying to learn new things, he
Right.
told me, okay, you're gonna spend the summer doing a demo reel for the company, and that meant that I could do whatever I want. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do fluid simulation, I'm gonna
Awesome.
do craft simulation for
Awesome.
medical animation. So that's how I started. And in 2014, I got my first job inside the VFX industry in MPC to work in the Jungle Book as layout TV. And that's
Oh,
how
wow.
from there I just ramp up to different jobs, I was always a generalist. So I worked as character effects, layout, crowd simulation,
Awesome.
cloth simulation, whatever it was needed, I was there.
Awesome.
Survival.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like now, I mean, when I first got in the industry, because I started with motion graphics and stuff, and I still do motion graphics to today, it was like, okay, when I was freelancing, I had to do everything. But when I was walking to the studio, it's like, okay, no, you just do this one simple task, and that's it. But now I'm noticing it's like you just get a bunch of journalists in a room and say, okay, who wants to take this and who wants to take that? It's weird, because you're where I'm from, you're expected to know a lot more. You know what I mean? Because once it was just a character animator. That's all he did. I just do character animation. Now he's like, can you do some background? Can you do some light simulations? Can you do some cloth simulations and stuff like that? Can you, kind of expand on just simple IK, rigging and stuff like that? Can you actually rig the character? Because before there was like a rigger, he passed it off to an animator, then the animator passed it off to somebody to do the cloth and all that simulation. But now there's like, you're expected to do a lot more usually in smaller studios, but I'm seeing it grow into like major studios.
Oh, I don't know if in bigger studios this happens. In fact, it's a classic tendency or trend to somehow, to put you an example, generalists were a completely department at DNEC.
Right.
Now generalist doesn't exist. It's split between environment and layout into
Right.
areas. No.
Yeah.
ILM, they got their own generalist department, but it's more environment department.
Right.
So my relationship with big companies is always quite interesting, because I start in a very specific task. I was, for example, at ILM as crowd. In DNEC, I was as layout. And after 2-3 months, because my nature is to make more things,
Right.
I feel the pressure of I need to do more.
Right.
But most of the cases, production, at the end of the day, the money has to be clear somehow how it's going to be spent.
Yeah.
And you have this kind of role where you are not quite defined. People, you know, it's scared about that. I understand that. Imagine you have money, I have money, I have to spend £10,000,
Right.
and the guy tells you, well, I do a little bit of everything. What do you mean by that? Well, generalist, but I don't understand. So they need specifics.
Right.
And I'm not specific. Anyone who is a filmmaker doesn't work with specifics. You work with abstraction all the time. So I'm abstract, and when I work with these companies, there's 3-4 months in the company. I do shots, I do a cloth simulation, whatever is needed. At some point, I want to, hey, what if we do this in a different way?
Right.
You always find the two kind of people: the people that let's try something new, and the people that can tell you, oh, but how can we justify this money to do this kind of new style of animation or this new real-time animation? That's the harder part, not to do the things to convince people from the bottom up.
Right.
That's why I think, and this is nothing against the big companies, I think big companies are the real engine moving the industry. It is a matter of physics.
Right.
The bigger you are, the slower you are.
Yeah.
The smaller you are, the faster you are.
Exactly.
Yes, if you are smaller, you are not strong. I agree. I mean, you are not ILM, you are not DNEG, you are not Framestore. Okay.
Right.
But you can move faster because you can lose less.
Yeah.
So you can see people in a basement using deep fake, I don't remember the application, to change the face with AI.
Yeah, deepfake, yeah.
Doing exactly, replacing sometimes better face animation and face digital doubles with using deep fake, using AI, than a CG double that sometimes costs a lot of money, time, reviews, approvals. So that's the irony of this new technology that is democratizing for the good, I think. Big companies, they need to catch up. They need to not to put money. They need to listen, I think.
Right.
And I know many of them are listening, but it's true that sometimes communication fails and goes slower than you expect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the coffin. I think it's so important for big companies to remain flexible, to still have like maybe a little offshoot of like an independent group of people within the company. And their job is just to push the technology forward and then find implementation, a good workflow, and then integrate it into like the mothership. But if you become too big, like it become too stale, and then you become, I mean, even software companies, I would say even like software, because you look at what Blender and Unreal is doing, this whole, free to play type of thing. It is shifting up the industry, and a lot of people from Maya to Sim4D to Lightwave, they're switching to Blender for not only because it's free, but because they're seeing so much growth in the software, and they're like, okay, because I feel like when you learn a software, it's an investment. You know what I mean? Like, okay, is this software going to be around in the next 3 or 4 years, or am I wasting my time? So I think Blender is showing like, look, I'm not even a Blender user, but Blender is showing like, look, we're doing some strong growth. Learn our software. It'd be a great tool, and I think other software companies need to, kind of match that flow as best way possible, and maybe change up the way they produce money. Like maybe change up that workflow a little bit. Maybe they have to switch it up a little bit, because it's hard to compete with this Blender force coming in. I mean, I seen you use Blender. Did you always use Blender, or was there a switch from like a more of a standard application?
No, I moved from Maya because most of the industry right now, and still the standard right now, is Maya, or some companies, they have their own in-house core software as well, so you have to learn the software. But this is the cliche but it's true that the software doesn't matter. It's just a tool, it's a medium. It is true that some tools are easier than others, or they are more friendly, because at the end of the day, what matters here is performance, user experience, and UI.
Right.
If you have these three guys on the line, you can replace, by the rules of the free market, any other software in months. Yeah. Because this is not about if Blender is good or bad, or Maya is good or bad. This is about the business strategy of every single software. If Maya next year has a nice licensing system for indie production, that they are trying to do mirroring side effects strategy. If they come up with that in a seamless transition, Blender is gonna be harder to be integrated in big companies.
Yeah.
This is the nature of free market. This is nothing like I'm just making up. This is like
No, yeah, yeah.
So I changed to Blender mainly because I set up my own company, Mayhem Mirror Studios, and we are developing original content starting from scratch. This means that I don't have yet a structure that is safe to say, yeah, let's pay how many license we need, 1,000, yeah, of course, and burning the money fast. I need to be careful of how the money is spent, and if I have to choose, I prefer to spend the money to the artists and the human resources.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I found Blender like the perfect candidate to say, okay, it's gonna be a little bit of a transition because most of the artists working at Mayhem Mirror, they weren't using Blender before. I talked with them, I asked them what they thought, and they said, yeah, let's do it 100%. And now that we are after 3-4 months using the tool or 5 months, we feel the advantages of using the tool. A part of it is free. You can see a real trend quite connected with Unreal Engine or side effects. That is like the gang of the new gang of the neighborhood. No, it's like they came and they are quite connected. You can see the advantages.
Yeah.
This can change in 1 year. This can change in 1 month. It's not. I'm not married to any technology because at the end of the day, if you as a student you have to learn something that is agnostic to the software. Learn color theory. Learn storytelling. Learn what do you think about the world. Learn about yourself or learn what is 3D, what perception, spatial intelligence, all these things are what really matters, because a tool, you can learn a tool in 1 month, in 2 months easily. That's with the proper tutorials. So if you want to survive in the industry, you have to, your value is what you are, not your skill set. Your skill set can be learned. If I tell you, hey, you need to learn Cinema 4D in 3 months, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find a lot of tutorials on YouTube, on any platform, from zero to hero.
Right.
And you are gonna come back, I know Cinema 4D. Maybe I'm not a senior, but I can do a motion graphics video for you. Perfect.
Right.
But now I need someone that has something to tell me, something to visually perform.
Right.
And that is not in the software. You don't have yet a button that says David Fincher style, Steven Spielberg style.
Yeah,
I need you to know that.
Yeah,
so that's the value.
Yeah, that's true. I think I would put an analogy to it. I think it's more focused on the destination. Like whether you take a car to get there, a van to get there, a bus to get there, whatever gets you there. But I think at the end of the day, when you give it to the end user and you say, okay, here's the movie we just did, no one cares how it was made. To be honest,
buy a map.
Yeah, exactly. And I think and that's the important, because like you show it, and you show your work to people outside the industry. I like to show it to like people who just have no clue of anything, and they be like, okay, well, how come it's this and how come it's that? And so they don't really care about the tools and how many people behind it and what studio. They just like, I just want a good movie experience or a good AR, VR experience or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But that brings me to something that I feel like is a technology that to me, it made things possible. Before, I like traditional GPU renders, CPU renders. Me trying to do animation on my part, it was just too expensive, to get a render farm, and it was a block that you had to use money to just jump that hurdle. So let's talk about real time and how has that transcended what was previously not possible. You know what I mean? And to get because I'm looking at your work and they're high end results. It looks like a traditional GPU renderer. It doesn't look real time. It doesn't look video game-ish. It looks like it's baked, and you had a render farm, or you had like 4 or 5 GPUs and you threw it at it, and you came back 2 years later and said, all right, it looks awesome. So if you can just speak to the effects of real time in today's animation arena.
Yeah, that's interesting question, because I knew this was going to happen. So I'm gonna do a very shitty draw.
Okay.
To explain what I think about this.
Awesome.
Let me see if it's. I'm gonna try to put it there. Okay.
Perfect.
So this is. I'm left-handed, by the way. This is VFX quality. Okay. It's going up like this.
Right.
Okay. A little bit. This is GPU quality. And this is today. We are not yet there.
Okay.
But we can expect that, because exponential growth is still there. Well, it
Right.
is linear. What I mean, the other is a little bit flatter. Okay, there we go. This is GPU, GPU, this is CPU.
Right.
And we are here. We are still in this moment. And the reason we are not yet there is because characters. That's going to be a hard thing because we got many things in a character involved. We have high-res meshes, we got grooming, we got facial perform, we got many things that work right now very well in a CPU, okay? Because different elements, memory, options to put displacement maps, different elements. I think that will happen with GPU at some point, but we are still not there yet. Maybe in a couple of years, and maybe because the help of AI, we can cross that line one day to say, yeah, let's do this shot of a guy in front of the camera, full CG. This can happen already, for example, as the test ILM did with Star Wars, where you see the helmets. That's smart because obviously you don't see the face. You can break the uncanny very easily. It's a helmet of the stormtroopers, so that's easy. I think we will come there, but the thing is, when you democratize technology, democracy, this is plateau words. I'm in favor of democracy, don't get me wrong, but democracy is true that opens the doors completely for everything, good, bad, mediocre, for everything. That's part of the process, and that's good, that's needed, because that's the global intelligence. Everyone helps each other to get better and better and better. And you can see many Facebook groups how people help each other to get this new step to avoid uncanny valley. But we are not yet there. That's why it's quite active, because we are trying to resolve many problems that we already lived 10 years ago, to get first-time global illumination, to get first-time subsurface scattering, to get first-time grooming simulation. We are now reviving this again. We are coming back to the past, not for bad, for the good, because we think at some point this is going to overcome that. It's going to take over. But we are still in that final moment. Of course, for environment, no question asked. Yes, 100% Unreal Engine is going to work. For LEDs, of course, this is working already. For some characters, if you know how to stylize them, perfect. Is what I'm doing with the Cito Yuna. I'm stylizing a little bit the characters to avoid uncanny valley. This is like, for example, James Cameron for Avatar, because the technology wasn't quite yet there. He was smart enough to say the aliens in the very beginning was going to be with different tone skin color, and he decided to do blue, because then you break the uncanny valley. Your brain assumes, it's not a human, it's an alien because it's blue. So you are not thinking anymore it's uncanny. Of course it's uncanny because it's not a human. So that's what can help you now to work with Unreal Engine, with characters, to break, to work with the artistic direction, to don't try to have hyper-realistic humans, but to have that final touch in the proportions, in the shapes, in how you texture the characters. It's how they did, for example, the cinematic in Epic Games of the kid and the what is the name in English? This thing, the kid that goes running in a forest with this kind that flies on the sky. I don't remember.
Oh, you're talking about what Blender did, like the
Epic Games did a short film. The kid and
wait a minute. Was it the lady with the princess dress on?
No, the kid. One second. I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
find this right
yeah.
now. The kid and the I don't remember now. Short film.
All right, let's see if we can find that.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to.
Oh, the boy and the kite.
Yes.
Okay.
And this was before a lot of technology wasn't there yet, RTX or eye shaders and stuff. But that was a smart move, because they presented a software based in a video game engine that is able to deliver something, and that something is a story. So again, if you don't want to drop your audience thinking, oh, that's a video game engine, you need somehow to think differently. What should I avoid to feel like this is a video game engine? I think it's just, I like to be fair with the stage. I don't want to come in, everything is done. Because if we say everything is done, we can relax and press the button and no one is going to change anything. Still work to do. But the trend is clear. The trend is going up. Unreal Engine 5 is coming. So we can see that many things are coming very soon.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the coffin. I think that's all facts. I think it's you're right. We're not there, and I think the stylized approach can, like you say, you can kind of get away with some things. You know what I mean? I mean, back in the days when the VFX wasn't good, you just darken the scene, don't let them see it. I think the stylized approach is, but I think the growth is faster than was before, right? Because I think the growth was
way faster. Yep.
Was like, oh, maybe in the year. And I was like, well, what happened next week? And I think a lot of the new tools are being added. And I'm honestly, for me personally, I would like to see better cloth simulations in Unreal. You know what I mean? I would like to see, I like the surface of the scattering, but I think there could be some improvement over there. I think honestly, I would like to see some, I know they did the rigging add-on, but I would like to see some more rigging tools in there. Like some, because my thing is, here's my problem. I don't want to set up a scene and that takes me half a day, right? To get everything right before I want to be in the tool executing within like 30 minutes. I think sometimes the setups, it's just, for me personally, my workflow is a little too long. It's like by the time I set this up, I'm ready to take a break. You know what I mean? And so...
Well, hopefully I think they know that, and I think this is gonna be a guess because I don't have any information, but this is a guess. I think they are gonna clean the UI, because now it's a little bit messy. Not because it's messy because they want. It's because, don't forget, this is a video game engine. The people is forgetting this so easily sometimes. We came from there. They are updating things. They are making this more friendly for filmmakers. 100%. We can see the features. It's about that, right? But one day this needs to be in the core, on the core of more filmmaking mindset, or at least more VFX proven UIs and UX models that work now in an intuitive way. You know, this book of UX UI that is called "Don't Make Me Think."
Right.
I don't want to think. Not because I'm dumb and I don't want to think. It's when this is the basics of any software. It needs to be intuitive. It's like, if you are in Blender or you are in any software, it's like, oh, I guess if I drag and drop this, it's going to apply the material. And I guess if I move this slider, I'm going to see this in real time. This kind of result, this constant feedback is how we live in the world. I know if I take this bottle, gravity, it's going to put it. We want to communicate with the software in the same way we expect from reality. Right now, because this came from a video game, the logic is more bound to video games. You need to compile. That's not intuitive. Compiling is not intuitive. I need to explain you what is compiled to see why I can't see a material in real time until it's not compiled. So there is a gap there in our brains that, but I don't understand this part. It's okay, we can learn that. But I think that the gap has to be, rather than implementing tools that they are always great, it's about the communication between the user and the final pixel.
That's true.
If I want this, why I don't having this and I'm having this other thing? This is the obviously the core of a good software in the very end. Obviously, as a performance as well, but user experience.
I think even to piggyback on that comment, I think, because I seen I was talking to do a long time ago, but it's like two versions of software. You have one software with more capabilities, and you have one software that can get you there fast. You can get you there and more intuitive. And I think if you have a software that is more intuitive, it's better than the software with more capabilities, because you're not going to reach that capabilities of that software, because it's all these things, hurdles you got to jump to. But you finally, by the time you get there, you can't redo it because it was such a crazy journey. So I think an intuitive. It needs to be very balanced. I think intuitive software is great. And I like the node approach, and I like the layer approach. You know what I mean? I think both of those can work seamless. I know, and I say Cinema 4D has a very intuitive workflow. People, mention that. It's like, oh, this just works the way I think it should work. And then you can expound on that knowledge and do some more research. But I think the initial steps, being intuitive, I know a lot of complaints I hear about Unreal is that it's a high learning curve. It's not, because like you said, it's a video game software, and you got guys who do film and VFX coming from traditional softwares, or people who just did After Effects want to jump into it, and they're like, oh, this is not intuitive. I don't understand this and this, because it's not built for your brain, and not built for what you're really trying to do. You're truly trying to do something that the initial purpose of the software wasn't really meant for. So I think you have.
I think they are going in that direction. I think they know that.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way of bringing a lot of people. And you know, another way of doing this, rather than changing the software, you do training to people like the Unreal Fellowship or different programs where you can teach people this new mindset. But again, I think it's a responsibility of both parts. You know, R&D, they have to ask people how they want to work, and people have to learn a little bit what is this software about. And in the mid ground, you can find the sweet spot of efficiency. In the meantime, the idea is people know more, and software changes, more changes, and one day it's perfect world. And open the software and you do your movies in no time. But yeah, that's more or less my 2 cents on the topic. It's a constant revolution, and that means that every single version we are seeing new things closer to the filmmakers.
Okay, so let's talk about your films, because I was able to see a snippet. And it blew me out though. I was like, oh my god, I was so hyped. So for your company, correct me when I'm wrong, you're doing a animation company, right? Or is it?
Yes. Or it's a content company.
Content company. Okay, just umbrella it off. That makes sense. All right. So for your initial projects, is it going to be an animated series or film or short, or how do you see it? Your initial projects.
Yeah, we got different projects at the same time. Some of them are rescued from the past. The first film, the first pilot short film I did was Summer in 2014, about a kid in the middle of a planet on Earth that life, animals, and trees doesn't exist anymore. So humanity is the last civilization on the planet, and that was the first film that opened me the doors to know many producers.
Wow.
My current manager now, how all the industry worked. So at that moment there was some kind of curiosity about the project, and there was some conversations about making the full-length feature. It didn't happen. I think at that moment for the good, because I did a screenplay in 2 weeks, rushing, because my manager told me, do you have a full-length feature screenplay? And I said no. So you need to write someone, because these people want to see the full-length feature film. And it's like, I wrote many short films, but never wrote a full-length feature film. So in other words, it was utterly, it was really bad. It was really bad screenplay, like chaotic. I made a full length from a short film in 2 weeks. The things didn't make sense. It's not connected. Put characters just because, with no reason, just to feel it more like character B, and all the structures, and didn't work well. So, but it's true that flatten the bumps from the future. And with the Seed of Juna, I did the other way around. I wrote the entire full length feature film, and then I took like 3-4 sequences between the first and the second act, and that became the pilot episode, to tell it in a way. When I call it pilot, is what was the full-length feature of the Seed of Juna became also a TV series split in 9 episodes. Right now, what we are doing, I can't disclose everything, but we have 2 versions. We have a Bible with all the story split in 9 episodes for 22 minutes. Awesome. But also I'm writing right now the full length, again rewriting the full length movie of the Seed of Juna. So we got Summer, I got the Seed of Juna, also Summer. We are doing, this is kind of new announcement, we are doing a new trailer that is called Summer 2.0 as code name, and it's gonna be Summer but in real time. Then I started this other project, Nuberu, which is an open project. I want to show how to do an entire full project from the very beginning. We can call this, rather than behind the scenes or making of, before the scenes, before the things are done, to show how the things work. And then I got another one, which I'm writing right now, which is CRISPR-10, which is a kind of biopunk, modifying genetics to, like Gattaca movie in that style and that tone. So we got like 4 projects more or less on the table, and what we are doing is trying to get a winner horse that is gonna feed the other projects. So once we got the green light on that, that's the project we are gonna put all the strength and all the resources, but at the same time we keep pushing the rest of the project. That's why I say original content, because we are trying literally to avoid to work for commercials, for movies of other creators, not because I don't want. I was working for movies all my career. I want just to try to play a little bit riskier in terms of cash flow, obviously, because saying no to jobs or interesting jobs is sometimes hard. But trying to put all the force into our own ideas, our own content. And when I say content right now, yeah, it's more related with TV or movies, but we are also discussing about interactive or working with video games or comics or different ideas. But the idea is the entire core, the entire heart of the company is original content, ideas, keeping the things fresh and new.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super awesome, man. I can't wait
you,
to
man.
just kind of watch Learn Journal. I can't wait to watch the first project, to be honest. I just want to see it personally from a
I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust me, man. Trust me. It's a long
So
journey.
let's talk about Houdini, right? Though and we talk about user experience, and I just did I never actually tried a Houdini, but just the conversation around Houdini, the complexity of it, and people say, oh, when you get it over the hump, it's the sweetest thing. But so it's also for people who don't know what Houdini is, like, okay, what is Houdini? Because I know a lot of people frame it as more of a simulation software, but I've seen some modeling, I've seen some great different things used for it. So what do you see Houdini as primarily?
Well, yeah, I mean, you had to go to back on the days where Houdini was completely FX land software. But in the last few years, Houdini is either a main tool or software, or also a kind of sidekick guy that is going to help you with many processes, because the logic of the nodes can allow even from someone that doesn't have any idea of coding or is not from R&D, you can create your own tools. And this is really powerful because, again, in the same way Unreal Engine democratized how you create pixel or stories, Houdini democratized how you create tools. You don't need to learn Python. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. If you are going deep inside in terms of optimizing, it's better that you know coding. But for someone like me, like I don't know even how to write in my own language. No, I'm kidding. But it's really great. It's really great to have something that is visual programming somehow to create logic, to create whatever you want. And right now, Houdini, again, I'm using Houdini not just for effects. In fact, for effects, I use just for a couple of simulations for the Cito Yuna back in the days. Right now, I'm using Houdini with a new version for retargeting systems, taking the motion capture of what we did on set and put that into Rigify rig or in whatever other rig. I use Houdini for procedural modeling, and it's very simple. For example, if I have to teach Houdini, I would start with procedural modeling because you understand the logic of how everything is non-destructive. So if I have a sphere, then I put a noise, then I duplicate this sphere, then this sphere is going to move along the path, and this path is going to be deformed by other thing. I can go here to the top, and this sphere now is going to be a box. Everything is going to fit this box down to the line, and I'm going to have the final result with a completely different shape because I changed the very core. So it's non-destructive. So that's the beauty of Houdini. And now, how I became from someone experimenting to a tool maker. Okay, I'm going to take this number of nodes, and I'm going to expose specific values to change my final appearance. So I'm going to expose what is the geometry input. We're going to put here a sphere, cube, and cone. I'm going to change the number of duplications I want to have this shape. Okay, I'm going to put this slider exposed. And I want to change the material I want to put in this final shape. And that can be packed in a Houdini asset and bring to Unreal or leave it in Houdini or other software like Maya or whatever. And now I'm going to have a tool with a slider where I can change the shape of the input, I can change the number of elements, and I can change the material in a very visual tool. I became an R&D artist right now. So that's the beauty of Houdini. It's like someone like me that doesn't have this knowledge can create these things, and you can put this to the maximum level of proceduralism in your room, and that's the beauty.
Wow. Yeah, I love your explanation because that makes sense to me. It's kind of like how Unreal's material engine works. You can kind of expose certain things.
Yes.
And I love the fact of having things exposed and having things not exposed. That way, if you want to purchase for somebody else, like, look, I just want this material. I love the way you did it, and that you can kind of get it and run with it. But if you want to go into the back end and say, okay, let me tweak a couple things and see how this is done. So it leaves. I like to make things simple, but have an advanced mode for my way of learning. So I can, okay, if I want to dig a little deeper. So I'm gonna ask you some generic questions. Are you? So I'm assuming. I just assume that you're a PC guy versus a Mac guy, right?
Yeah, I use PC just because I want to use my money smartly.
Yeah. So here's the second question. It's like a setup question. So do you use the iPhone or do you use the Android? Because I noticed it's weird. A lot of people who's like hardcore PC are iPhone people or who are
This is a LG
Android.
LG 4.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. I mean,
All
the
right.
thing is, I want to be honest. For some specific software, Mac is great, and if you go to big companies, you can see how production or editorial they use Macs. That's okay. Hardcore things, and you need to in the rack you need to put 3 graphic cards and 2 processors and things like that. You need to have a level of customization that you can't do with a Mac unless you want to open Mac and lose the warranty. That's up to you.
Yeah.
So it is normal. You don't see Macs in VFX companies normally when they are big and they use Linux and not Windows. Obviously you use Linux most of the cases unless you need ZBrush or something more specific, or Unreal Engine, that now they have Linux and Unreal Engine with some limitations somehow. That we were working with that in DNEC with Unreal Engine and stuff, and was like, oh, okay, Unreal Engine in Linux, that's good, but some limitations like the OpenGL, I think was different, the Vulkan and different kind of drivers work different, and you don't want to lose features that you got. But yeah, at the end of the day, is 95% is Linux based and with personal computers, and there's a kind of corner there that they use Mac, which they are great people. But they use Mac, so they have to be evil or something. I mean,
I see a lot of Macs in more the design field where it's not really, you're not pushing things to the max. It's more aesthetically pleasing. You know what I mean? And keep things very simple so the design flow can be very simple.
To be honest, I don't take that never seriously, because at the end of the day, is depending on what you are doing. If you are good with your art and your ideas and stuff, you can use a typewriter. You're gonna make me cry writing a nice book in a typewriter, like a old guy, with a candle, like typing, and that's beautiful. It's like you want to use Mac, go ahead. I'm talking more about hardcore performance and want to burn the engine. Yeah, you can go faster with that, but I'm not like versus. I avoid any kind of versus because. To be honest, people that defend a software later, they do think that it's not to the level of the software they are defending. It's like, if you want to defend something, first give me something that is made with a software that is good enough to say, this is like Blender, and things like that. So it's like, I don't care. I just like to see good content. In the end of the day, when you put Netflix, they don't say mating Mac, mating.
That's true.
You want good content at the end of the day.
True. Okay, you're not gonna like my next question here. It's work versus play, right? How do you get that work-life balance? Because I think it's so important to kind of strike that balance. You can't be so hard into it. I feel like there needs to be a certain kind of balance. Even if your balance is more work than play or more play than work, I feel like for you to, I guess, have a good life, you know what I mean? To continue, how do you strike it? Do you go on long walks? I know a lot of people, they're doing this new thing where they work, and even though they're working at home, they have like a Skype session up with a bunch of their friends, and they're all working simultaneously. So how do you get your work-play balance? How do you do that?
Okay, I can answer you the question straight, but I want to be a little more cynical. If I may I try to give you a little bit of a twist. I think is if you are doing what you are doing and they are paying you what you are doing, a part of having the impostor syndrome, you are making good in life because you are having fun while you work. And I'm trying to pursue that. I'm trying to chase that on life. Like, I want to do things that they pay me somehow, and at the same time I feel it like a game. To put you an example, I even made some games in Unreal Engine, like a kind of top-down guy shooting and doing things. So I'm trying always to blur the line between playing and working, and the balance comes if I go out with the feet in the ground about keeping this balance. One thing is true that because I came from martial arts and I came from personal training, and I know the value of this, not just because physical, also mentally in terms of chemistry works a lot. You drop serotonin, so you feel better during the day, dopamine, different kind of hormones that it's not just a kick of happiness, it's also a kick of creativity. So running in the mornings, most of the ideas I got, it was while I was running. You organize the entire day ahead. You set your shots, you set what you had to, who you had to talk with, you set your ideas, you came with new concepts, new lines for your dialogues, new things while you are running, almost like a kind of shamanic passive process. You are not actively in front of a computer, I need to write a screenplay, because spoiler alert, that's not how creativity works, even if you want to. Because we can't control our creativity, it's good to change the inputs constantly with new smells, new worlds, new areas, new people, and that's how I try to keep the balance. It's like these experiences, rather than just being healthy and that's it, they are healthy and provides a fuel, a kind of energy to the creativity. Because otherwise, you know, somehow I want to connect all I do in my life in a way that is all holistic or connected. That's more or less my signature. I want just to keep the things connected. Then, a part of that, it is true, in the last 3 months, for some reason, I've been addicted to Valorant. And I want to kill teenagers. This Valorant is like this kind of shooter game.
Right.
And I feel really happy about killing teenagers in this game, because they scream a lot and it's my kind of therapy. And I became better than them, which is kind of strange, because I was really bad with this kind of shooter games. So I feel happy about killing teenagers. You can read this part of the video. No. Yeah. It's good. It's good. I really have fun with this kind of
YouTube
games.
just like this.
But that's what I do, more or less. Running a little bit in the mornings and playing a couple of matches in the night, just to remove ideas of filmmaking for a bit.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Because now, obviously, with social distancing, I would like to see more people more often, but we are more careful because we are in London. We are like going completely up like crazy, man.
So let's talk about how COVID affected your day to day. Are you more isolated? Are you working more remotely because of the COVID situation? Are you feeling like, you know, I mean, how has it affected your day to day life?
Well, it is true that because of COVID, I made my company. COVID hit very strongly to many VFX companies, and in a moment I wanted to do a lot of R&D with real time in big companies. Obviously, the business strategy of these companies, and I respect and I value that, is protecting the jobs and protecting, more than the jobs, let's say protecting the movies that can create jobs. It's a contradiction, obviously, because to protect the movies, you need to put more efforts into winning the pitches of different movies, but that means slowing down sometimes maybe other creativity that, you know, is money that a lot of cash flow goes to things that maybe work or maybe doesn't work. So I wanted to invest time into something that maybe works or maybe doesn't work, and that was real time for filmmaking. And I decided to do this by my own, creating a company, because COVID slowed down these processes, and I said, okay, I'm gonna risk. It's the worst thing you can do, doing a company in moments of crisis, or maybe it's the thing that you should do. It's depending on how you want to look at that. So it changed a lot, obviously, because when Dinek I started to work at home, and the things were slower than expected when you are in a one-on-one basis. When you, at least in my situation, that I was like real-time layout solutions, you wanted to you know, to showcase better the real-time technology, but you don't have people that go on set to show your tools or your ideas.
Right.
You go to an email, someone is in a call, so everything is lost in translation sometimes, and you feel that momentum of happiness of seeing something, or excitement, seeing something completely new, of groundbreaking. So I thought, okay, things are changing. I need to do something, because I have that energy. I have the energy of creating things in a different way. So I decided I need to quit, or to let's say pause the VFX loop, to bet for my own stories and my own ideas. It's riskier. It's like seeing to the vertigo feeling like, whoa. Because you never know how this is gonna go. But it is true that if you see this in the balance, you feel more, full of energy. You feel completely focused in your ideas. So that's how it changed. Setting up my company, spending a lot of time in new tools that I wanted to learn, knowing a lot of amazing people, because obviously this energy sometimes is contagious. You drop this energy and people want to do more. I mean, right now in Mayhem Mirror, we got people from ILM, from DNEC, from Weta Digital, from Quixel, from so concept artists, like they are crazy good. We got the director of art of LA, DNEC. I mean, it's completely crazy, and with the support of Epic, with the support of Side Effects, with NVIDIA, Blender Foundation, and many people there. It's like an energy. People, I think people is hungry, as you said before, and if you give them something fresh or new, they say, yes, I want to do this. And that's why I always recommend when someone come to I have an interview to someone that wants to join the company, or someone, a small conversation, and they tell me, yeah, I have a personal project. It's like, wait. My recommendation, put your energies as much as you can to keep the balance in your personal project, 100%. And then we talk about my personal project, because that's the worst thing it can happen, that I'm working my personal projects because I want to do personal things, and then maybe people coming here avoiding to do, their time used to do my personal project rather than investing their time in their personal project. There is time from everything. So always in these big companies, DNEC, MPC, ILN, I found many people asking me, where do you find the time? Where do you do this? How can I do that? Just try to encourage them to find time, because at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your stories. We don't have any clue that there is a second life. So because we don't have scientific clue of that, let's at least use this life to do something remarkable where you feel happy about it. And you can find a lot of people that wants to do this. Sorry, I just diverted into talking.
No, that's it. That's what I want to stay in that lane though. Let's go to the future, right? Let's focus on the future. I see you have a PS VR PS headset back there, if I'm mistaken. Do you
good one?
Yeah. Do you feel that in the future, right? Let's just project. Let's go sci-fi here. Do you think that the VR AR is going to be the future of storytelling versus traditional? Because no matter how many crazy effects, Houdini, Unreal, whatever you put, it ends up as a 2D image. It always ends up as a flat image, right? For traditional storytelling in Netflix and whatever. Do you think the future, I mean, video games is different. Video games, you do get some interactivity, but still, that's still kind of flat image. Do you think that the AR and VR is going to be the next, storytelling, or the next internet, or the next way we experience media?
Not completely, for different reasons, more in a biological understanding. We as humans, we need a balance between active and passive inputs and outputs. For example, I had a VR set there precisely because I'm not using it. The PlayStation is in the other place, it's in the room. Which means that when I bought it, I was playing during 2-3 weeks, and later I just wanted to take the controller and play with no too much activity.
Right.
I watched, for example, the Netflix experiment with, I don't remember the episode of Black Mirror. They did a kind of interactive, like for example the video game also of what is the name, Detroit Become Human. They are like more interactive, but sometimes you just want a completely passive experience. I don't want to choose where I have to look. I want just to be driven. Sometimes we like to drive, sometimes we like to relax. So I think the market is open for both. What I see is like both things are gonna grow, and both things are gonna help each other. So you have the movie, which is completely passive experience, and you have maybe the VR version to complete the story with different ideas. But I don't see a kind of competition taking over thing, because we as humans, we are full of different tastes. And some people like Goya, some people like Velázquez, some people like Dali. They are different kind of styles, and it's quite depending on the personality you have or how you feel that day. So VR maybe open more the options to social platforms, I would say, or even medical applications. Obviously, content like video games and stuff. for storytelling, you have to. One thing is important. If you see the definition of a storytelling, is telling a story.
Right.
So someone has to tell and someone has to listen. If you use VR storytelling, you are not telling the story. The viewer decides the story. So it's not like a old grandfather that goes to the fire and I'm gonna tell you a whole story about. It's different now because it's like I can choose my story. Oh, damn! I don't know if I want to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it's very.
It's a kind of contradiction saying that VR storytelling is a thing because no one is telling me anything. I choose my story, right? I mean, I'm trying to be a little bit exaggerated to.
No, but yeah, you're there. I think it's a very valid point. Like if someone goes to the beach, some people like to surf.
Immersive experience.
And some people like like someone go to the beach, someone's like to surf, and some people like sit there and watch the waves. And you know, and maybe they're the same person on certain days, but you're right. Storytelling is a different when you sit there and use your imagination, and you're not choosing your directions and where to go and how to react to certain things. Versus, and then I think if you start choosing your direction in story, let's say in the future you have a super complicated storytelling arc where you can do 1,000 different directions. I think then you become. It sounds weird, but your story become kind of monotony because you're doing what you would do every time. You wouldn't make the bold choices. You wouldn't make this. But if you live vicariously through another character with storytelling, you would see what another character would do. Like you take one of the Marvel movies where the main character like Thanos is the bad guy. You kind of see what the bad guy scenario would be. You know what I mean? And you get a different perspective on how things are versus I think you make a very interesting point. Versus if you're driving the whole story, I think it kind of you affect the story a little bit more than it's a different experience. And I think the passive versus active. I think sometimes you just want to sit around and like I watch a lot of anime and sometimes they're meant for children, but it lets me just kind of escapism a little bit versus something like the news. Like oh goodness, I gotta watch this again. I gotta see what's going on. So I think there's a definitely balance in between the two. And I don't think it's necessarily two different people, but I think there's two different modes. And you're right. I think there's some validity to that.
And even let's imagine that, for example, the plot is completely linear, and you are still saying, "Oh, we can watch a movie VR."
Right.
I'm not completely sure that again that's gonna take over the entire market because if you see someone like David Fincher follows literally the eyes of the characters with the framing. If you put VR, framing disappears unless you want a repetition inside the VR of a screen. Which is why. When technology happens, my first question is why.
Right.
No, because it's cool, but why? No, I want to know why.
Right.
So, okay, you got, let's say, linear experience. You got a David Fincher movie.
Right.
And then you can choose the framing because obviously you have two options when you are in a VR. You have the option that the screen is locked. So you feel like you are inside a cinema. So my question is, why? Okay, maybe because COVID. Okay, you want to feel like in a cinema situation in a pandemic, it's cool to have VR because you can feel in a cinema. But apart of that, go to the cinema or watching the big screen or with a projector. I don't have here in the other room. Put that on the screen and you have the same experience. The second option, it's interactive. Wherever you look, you can see the environments and the character go. So the composition, the direction kind of disappears when we talk about storytelling. Not about video games immersive experience, but storytelling. In the moment I can choose, we see the stories of our lives, deciding where to put attention.
Right.
This is like, sorry about again, but I think these kind of things are kind of, is like the difference sometimes between happy and sad is not the reality, it's where you choose to put your attention. It's a bit cheesy, it's a little bit, whatever. If you are, in a bad situation, family, whatever, it's sad no matter what, but it's true that when you tell a story, you can choose what is your framing, where you put attention into the eyes, into the lips, into the back character, into the shadows, into the feet, and with that you tell different things. Now if I can choose between the eyes and the feet and the gun and the shadow or the glasses or the windows, I'm telling completely different stories. And the problem is that could be not cohesive. It could be, why look into the window while this guy is looking like a creepy guy to the woman?
Right.
You lose the momentum, you lose the story. It's completely other experience that I think is not going to take over because you put a lot of responsibility to the viewer, and not it's because the viewer doesn't know what to do. It's because when you create a story, you work more than 6-7 months in writing a perfect screenplay and a perfect technical screenplay to tell the story you want to tell. And that is that curated thing disappears when it's interactive. So I in these two worlds, it's like, yeah, it's great to have interactive content and VR for many things, but for storytelling, you need to drive the audience in a journey, and that's quite passive sometimes for the good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree. I think that's with Nolan and Fincher and all these guys who direct your eyes at certain parts of the story. And they make sure you're shot out of the window, and you're like, why am I showing shot out of the window? And then maybe 20 minutes later, when you forget the window, it's like, oh my god, that was so important. I love the way he set that up. And now it's like, hey, you watch with somebody else, man. Look at that window. So it definitely storytelling is more of a passive than story experience. I think definitely is passive. But let's talk about workflow. Right? I think with tools, you could try to change your workflow a little bit. So do you lean more towards traditional workflow? Like, okay, let me sit down and write a screenplay. Let me sit down and execute this and A, B, C. Or do you, because I'm seeing a lot of people are doing more, they're merging their workflow with their traditional workflow, and they're starting at the end, so to say, right? So they're like, okay, I want the character to look a certain way. It's a different ecosystem. It's like more of a 360 workflow where your story is not, your script is being written as you're animating, right? As you're, you know what, I thought about it, and you know, in the scene where it takes place in the hospital, it should take place on the roof, and there should be, instead of wind and craziness, it should be a calming situation, and then instead of going back to the screenplay, like it's a ecosystem. So what's your thoughts on traditional workflow in the art of storytelling?
Yeah, I think now with real time, this thing is even more clear because again, this is about more startup philosophies, waterfall versus agile. Agile workflows or pipelines are based in iterating fast, like what you said, as you said, 360. So you get a very fast result as soon as possible, so you can iterate very fast to see what you need as soon as possible, rather than waterfall that this department finish the modeling, then you go to the rigging, animation, render, lighting, render, blah, blah. So every single chain needs to go for almost, not always, from the very beginning of the pipe, and that takes a lot of time, and you lose happy accidents, you lose the momentum of creativity. True. And I really believe that creativity happens with when you work in parallel, because our natural behavior is when we do, again, I always put this example, but if I do this, if I put this pen here and I do this, I know I'm gonna have a line. So I have completely the control of my creativity, and another guy maybe is doing another line here, another is painting a red color here, and that red color is gonna inspire me to draw another line surrounding the red dot. That moment is natural for us. It's our biology is used to real time because we live in a world that is based in time, you know? I got very philosophical, but I think it's the entire point of how we behave with the software and with the workflows. So anything that is closer to the experience of working as we live is always quite beneficial. So the traditional pipeline is so linear and so slow that we lose a lot of creativity in this path or between departments. When you send something to the farm and you have to wait to the final result, the animation finish with no final lighting, so you don't know how the face is going to behave with the lighting. Maybe a good shadow in the eyes is cool, but the animator doesn't have all the information. Maybe you go to comp, and in comp they start to put the lens flares, but if you have real time, you can see with the camera what is the perfect angle to get a perfect lens flare here in the bottom. So this kind of elements is where you can take a lot of advantage. In the same way I said before, with C doubles, we are not yet there in terms of post-process effects, lighting, layout, set dressing, framing, composition. Real time is a winner because you work in parallel. And something I always say is not about real time, it's about real art. Is to be able to be in the maximum of your creativity, because you are in a medium that is how you live in your life. And if I tell you to paint this wall, you know that your brush is going to do that instantly. And that's where you have other idea, and maybe the lighter decides to put the light to the left to have a better specular of that painting. That's how my workflow is changing. Right now we are working this core, and I always ask to the animators to have a very simple 80% quality animation. Well, simple and 80% maybe is not compatible. What I mean is having a first pass as soon as possible with the shape of the characters to know how that is going to work in the engine. So the feedback is already, the lighting is like that. Oh, let me just change then the pose because it's going to feel stronger if I move this arm here with the lighting. And you have this feedback constantly. So we work more in parallel. And you always want to leave like a moment that the shot can change in the very last second, and it's okay. And you want to leave it like that. You want to change this mindset of pre-vis, post-vis, which is great to save money when you go on set. So you know what is the lenses, what camera you need, what is the angle, the crane, everything is already set. But if you are working, for example, in feature animation, you want to leave the things open because you want to trust, at least in theory, to the creativity of seeing all the elements almost final. And then in the last moment, you say, I'm going to change the lens. Because that's what you would do on set as well. Maybe sometimes it's expensive, but now you can do it.
I think because I started lighting and cinematography, so I learned lighting on a film set. And so when I was able to go into Unreal or Octane or Redshift or whatever, I was amazed because it was the same lighting principles. And now I had, unlimited light at my display, and I can make a light invisible. Like I can light without even having to.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was that feedback, and I think that it is crucial. And I think even the retargeting, like even having a character that you feel is done, it's like, you know what, I wish I had a beard on the character. You can, now in real time, it'd still be a headache, but it wouldn't be almost impossible. Like, look, I'm gonna go through and re-render all my scenes out and give the character a beard and to be, retargeted to his face. And so, or a hat or something like that. As I think something about a red hat would make more sense. And so you could, kind of go through and add things, towards the post and have that. I think that it's definitely something. I haven't really figured out my workflow and getting it all seamlessly, re-editatively and back, but I use a program like Real Illusion, and I love their capabilities of creating characters and allowing the independent person to kind of just do certain things and create certain characters and re-editatively and you might not get as, if you create a character from scratch, you'll get more detail, but to take a base character that's pre-rigged and then jump into ZBrush and then tweak it and then bounce back in, because I don't think everything needs to be super creative from scratch and exaggerated or whatnot. But I think it's definitely a lot of new tools are coming out and changing the, those I feel like the artist will always be the artist. And a tool may help him to get to his vision, but he'll get there regardless. Give him a shovel and a paintbrush, he'll figure it out. But I think it's super awesome. So, are you leaning towards any? Because here's my thing: you have Unreal Engine that's doing to me personally is like the king of real time. But then you have you got Redshift RT, you got I think Octane, Embry, I think or something like that, and you got Project Lavina from Chaos Group. You got URender coming out with one. A lot of people are jumping on the real time thing inside of your. You got Eevee with Blender. But let's say if the capabilities were Unreal, right? Does it make it easier for? Because I feel like it's gonna get to a point where you're gonna have real time capabilities in your software, right? So you can inside your whatever tradition of using Maya or Blender or Sym4D or Lightwave, you're gonna have those capabilities. My question, just talk, but how would you, if you were Unreal, how would you keep people in that ecosystem of using Unreal? Because they have a great ecosystem with the textures they're adding, that huge library of textures, that mixer they've added. They're giving artists really, I think, comprehensive, really awesome tools, and they're supporting the industry as well. So I guess my question, the bottom line, it would be, let's say if you're positioned to you're Unreal, how would you kind of remain the king of the Unreal environment while other people are, when you're the leader, people are going to start adapting and doing different things. So how would you remain? What tools would you offer artists to remain in the ecosystem, the new ecosystem versus the ecosystem they're comfortable with?
Yeah, that's a nice question because it's quite interesting. But if you think about timeline, it's more probably it's gonna be faster. Unreal Engine becoming more like, as I said before, having a UI UX performance closer to VFX than VFX traditional software having a video game fully video game integrated engine inside their software. Part of Blender back in the day, that was also a video game engine that now is a deprecated. It's true that the engine, creating a video game engine is not like creating Eevee in Blender, which is great, offers you a lot of options, but Unreal Engine has been doing that job during decades. So that's how I see it. I think people is gonna keep staying in Unreal Engine, and I think Unreal Engine, what is gonna do to keep even more people or to bring even more people is to adapt to the needs. Free market again, demand versus offer. There is a demand, so they have to offer. They want to be the king. To be the again, when I, as you see, I always go to the root because to me tells me the proper answers. If they want to be the king, they have to play it. So Blender was smart about it. You know, Blender, they got this philosophy of left click versus right click. And, and in the last version, they said, yes, intuitively, if the mouse theory disappear in the world and they give you a mouse first time in life and you open a 3D software and I teach you how to use 3D software, actually pressing the left click to select, imagine that there is no other software in the world and this is the first time you open a computer. For the operations you want to do, there is a good reason to do that, to have one for selecting, another for operation. Okay, but the market is different because everyone will learn from Photoshop to Paint to anything to select a folder in a computer. That left click is the one of the main operator, no? So you need to adapt to the rules of the free market, and they listened to that and they said, okay, if we want to bring more people, we need to mirror somehow how the people work with 3D. And now people is jumping to Blender, not just because it's more powerful or have more tools. They change for the rules of the free market, UI and UX.
Yes.
With these three guys, they completely are breaking, or at least it's shaking the market. I'm not gonna say breaking because it's not true, but it's shaking. It's making some people a little bit concerned. Oh, what is going on here? Oh, the new guy in the neighborhood. So that is what I think Unreal or Epic Games. This is imagination, because maybe this video someone from Unreal or someone watches later and say, what the fuck is talking about? But I can imagine how people, business strategists, people that want to be in the market there. And obviously the business model is the same model, and it's free for everyone, but at some point, maybe in the future, these things changes. I mean, the cash flow can bring from e-games, e-sports like Fortnite and things like that. So it's a business model. It's a business. No, it's not a non-profit organization. Okay, it's a business. So they need to be there. And I think the way they are going to be there is by approximating again their UI UX to more traditional software, but with the advantages of working with a real-time engine. And I think that's going to be something that is going to happen. I personally, I can't imagine Unreal Engine 5 with the same icons than Unreal Engine 4. I'm not saying the icons because it's something that bothers me. It's because I think they want to present a solid, powerful software where you feel comfortable and more or less how you used to work in other software. Yeah, it's not gonna be a Blender. That's my guess. Again, maybe they come up with something like that because the logic of compiling, the logic of making a video game is completely different, and they still have a video game. I had a conversation with a very smart guy, Ruben, also a colleague from ILN and the Cito Yuna, that he told me the ideal solution, and this is an idea for someone from Epic, says, I think it's too late. It would be once you open the software, you have always the option, I'm gonna make a video game, I'm gonna make a movie. They already did something like that with the templates. But maybe I don't want a template. Maybe I want a completely different UI. Obviously based in the same C++, Python code, whatever, but I want to have a different experience, not in a template, in the software, exposing the things I need to use as a filmmaker. So I'm not gonna see let's say, like buttons that I wouldn't use in a film. So, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, It definitely does. I think even to piggyback what you said, you look at Blender and Sim4D, they have workflows. You're clicking, you're in the sculpting workflow. You know what I mean? But as far as I know, I've been using Blender for maybe not Blender, but Unreal for maybe 3-4 months. There's no click down. I just show me the tools for sculpting. Show me the tools for just doing animation, so like that. Because I feel like Blender has it, Sim4D has it. There's a lot of other programs that have this. You just click and it erases everything and puts everything where you want it to be at, and you can kind of tweak it from there. But it does, like you say, expose the tools that you would use for what you're doing. And Unreal doesn't have that, and it's weird that you brought that up. I never noticed it doesn't have.
They are trying to they have the modeling tools now. They have foliage tools, and that's great. It's even more to the core, and that's the hardest part of iterating a software, that you change a little bit even the how you structure your projects. Because a very current question, if you have to think how you have to set your shots, because that's the classic thing, is like how you organize your folder structure. If you go to that level, it means like you need to work on that. You maybe want to create a system where everything is organized, because you need to work maybe with one Unreal Engine file to make your entire movie, right? Maybe not. Maybe in the future you create a different file for shot. We don't know. But the thing is, when people ask you about something specific a lot of times, it means that the engine has to pay attention into that specific topic. And one specific very classic question is, how do you organize your shots? Do you create one level and different cameras? Do you create different levels and different cameras? You have a master scene and then you stack things inside. It's great to have different options. I'm not gonna say no, it's great to have different options, but it's true that creates a little bit of confusion in how you can organize, because again, there is a little bit of disconnection between how you would organize this in a folder. In a folder, I would say I'm gonna do a piece of paper per shot, no? And that's my logic, no? Now, how that translates to the software is a little bit more confusing, because you can put a camera using the same level, which is how you work in video games, and that's the logic of video games. I don't have the solution and the answer, because I know it's a video game engine, but it is true that should be something in the high level, clean in the UI, that says new shot. That prepares the UI and the UX and the assets to do a new shot with already maybe the camera there already linked to the scene, so you don't need to create a new sequence to have a. I'm just putting an example of how our brain works when we want to do a shot. That would save a lot of people to have these initial questions. That is sometimes the blocker, is like, I open the engine and I don't even know what is the time scroller. Of course, because you need to create a level, then a sequence, then you need to drag and drop a camera, then you need to put the camera into the sequencer, then you need to create. Those are five steps already. You want that in one step. So that's the kind of things I think it would be like the king of the mountain, which is already. But if they don't want in the future, Eevee becomes like, I don't know, like an amazing engine. They need to provide this offer somehow for the demand.
Yeah, you're right. I think Eevee has the possibility of getting a lot of, because it's just evolving so fast. I think they have a possibility of getting some ray tracing, some real-time feedback and whatnot. But I think Unreal has the possibility. I think Unreal has an ecosystem that everything focused on real time. There's like simulations and stuff like that. Everything is built off real time, where other applications, even there adapt a render engine that is real time. The ecosystem of real time is not there. And I think that what gives Unreal the advantage. And if they can capitalize on that, and they're like, all right, everything's real time. This, and even I think that gives people that, like you said, that real time feedback that allows you to be more creative versus I'm rendering, I'm gonna come back tomorrow and hope there's no mistakes.
They use all the tools in the way that for every single situation. I use at the same time having Unreal open, Blender open, Houdini open, and Paint open for the reviews. So it's whatever. It's like I don't see this. Free markets of rules applies, but at the same time, also free market offers the option of not being a monopoly, and everyone has their own space in this market. So maybe use Blender for animation and use Unreal Engine for the final pixel. It's up to you. So I think it's quite open.
whatever works. I mean, I know a lot of people doing 2D films now. A tradition to with Eevee's, I mean, with Blender's new I forgot the name of it, grease pencil, and now people are like, whoa, man. People calling me it's like, I'm taking my 2D skills and I don't have to abandon them and go to 3D. I can kind of use grease pencil, and I haven't even explored that because I'm not a 2D artist, but it makes it just you know, if you it's so much 2D 3D coming into 2D that it'll be weird to do a traditional, unless you're doing like a traditional Disney film or something like that, but for artistic reasons. But it's becoming there, so I think the tools are getting better, but I think it's more important for the artists to remain true to their vision and then utilize, because sometimes a hammer is needed, sometimes a drill is needed, so it's not necessarily which is better, it's just which works for the job. So I mean, okay, I mean, I feel like I took a lot of your day, man. I don't want to take any more. I mean, I can go. We can dig deep, and I would love to do a part 2 because I feel like there's so many new tools that are dropping daily. You know what I mean? I feel like the workflow could shift with something that was a 3-step process now a 1-step process. You know what I mean? And even with plugins I think some plugins are better than updates. So I mean, I'd love to do a part 2 of this conversation, man. Hopefully you're available in the future. I know you got a lot of projects going on. I know you're taking advantage of the time and everything, but I, truly appreciate you, taking time. I apologize for the audio issue. I'm blaming it all on Adobe. If you hear it, I don't lose that sponsor. But yeah, man, I definitely appreciate you taking the time, man. I want to say thank you.
Really enjoy it. Thank you very much, and hopefully, we do a second round with more stuff, and we can go deeper into this kind of cheap philosophy. Sometimes I divert. And we can talk more about the industry and movies and stuff. And also, I want to see your projects. I know you are doing crazy stuff, so good luck with that as well.
Oh man, thanks. I'll just keep watching your live streams and just picking up more knowledge. So keep streaming. So awesome, man. So definitely we'll do a part 2, man. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.